Hey, welcome to the Dropship Podcast, the first one of 2023. Welcome to 2023. Jon and I are recording this a little early, just putting that out there for you. But like, we want to sit in that new year energy. We want to sit in that new you, that new person. We all set goals. We all have these great ambitions, aspirations going into 2023. And today I want to talk about how I personally try to hang on to that throughout the year, how Jon hangs on to that throughout the year, and how we don't just let it slide. And this is a difficult subject. As Jon and I are sitting here brainstorming for this, the first thing I said was, I don't want to be full of shit. I don't want to come across as one of the gurus online, because the truth is we all struggle with some of these things. I don't know one person personally. I don't know David Goggins, so I don't know anybody who pushes through every fucking thing on the planet. Like, we all have struggles between our ears. We all have things that come up throughout the year that might throw us off, and it's important to talk about some of the ways that either we failed, which I hope we can talk about a couple failures today, or here's some ways that Jon and I are currently working on holding that new year feeling throughout the year of 2023 so that we can accomplish our goals, so that we can find an end game to that why, so we can fulfill our why. So, Jon, I don't even know where to kick this one off here. I want to catch people in that emotion of the new year who are like, either they've bought our course in the past, or they bought some other course, or they've watched YouTube videos and they're ready to get rip roaring on a business. How do you sustain that new year, that, I'll call it what it is, that big dick energy you get in the beginning of the year? How do you carry that on for the rest of the year and don't let it fall off?
Yeah, look, I think, once again, by no means am I going to pretend like I'm perfect, and Happy New Year to everybody. Certainly not. And I think this is something that I've, completely missed in some years and being better at in some years. And I think I think I'm getting better at it over time as I sort of learn more and more. And I think, sort of in the e-commerce space, particularly high ticket dropshipping space, I think January does present some good opportunities to sort of refocus yourself and reset yourself and get yourself pointed in the right direction, both mentally and from a business perspective, because for most markets in the high ticket space, January does tend to be a quieter month, as in, like, tends to be, at least in my experience, January was always the month in the year where I had the least sales coming in. I had the least customer service. There were the least things happening in my business. And so it's always been for me a time where I can sort of take a moment to, reflect and then plan what's coming. And I think part of how you take advantage of that feeling that I think we all get around New Year of, hey, New Year, full year coming, it's exciting, think of all the things we could do, is actually having a plan to do those things. Like, I think what can happen to a lot of people is they come into it and the first week they're all like pumped, yeah, it's going to be a great year, it's going to do things. And then the second week comes, you haven't done anything yet. And then the third week, and things start happening to you. Right? Maybe you go back to if you're working a job, maybe you go back to your job, you've had a break. Kids go back to school at some point, depending on where you are in the world, and so things start happening to you. And if you haven't planned to take advantage of your year and you don't have goals, you don't have a plan that you're working to, it's very easy to become derailed and then wake up and it's March. Right? It's the end of the first quarter of the year and you still haven't done anything. You haven't done any of the things that might have been swirling around in your head on the 1st or 2nd or 3rd of January. And then that doesn't feel great, right? To realize, oh, wait, because time passes pretty quick sometimes, particularly when you've got a lot of stuff happening to you. You don't have any structure, you're not doing anything. And then I think the likelihood that you're going to do anything reduces as the year goes on, right? Because the year, for me at least, it just gets busier and busier and busier. More and more stuff is happening. There's more things you have to react to. And so it feels harder and harder to start something or to build on something as the year goes on because you're reacting to so much stuff. Whereas if you had a plan in place, set of goals, things you're looking to achieve, things you want to get done, and you have a plan for how those things are going to happen that's set at the start of the year that you can see, you can visualize, I think the chances of you're not going to hit it all, right? You never hit it. I've never hit all of my goals or all of the things that I wanted to do in a year. But if you hit at least some of them, you're making progress. You're going to finish the year in a better place than when you started it, ideally, or at least you're going to learn a whole lot more, because some of those things probably won't work. And so I think that's a big part of it. I think the first thing is you've got to do something now. I mean, if you want to take advantage of it, you've got to do something, start doing something today. Don't say, I've got the energy and I'm still going to have that in 4 weeks. I'll do something then. You got to take some action, start taking some action today. So I think we might talk about some of the things that we personally do at this time. I mean, I'm happy to talk about what I do, but I definitely think if you're sitting there and you're listening to this show and you've been like 2023, I think is going to be my year to start a business, to start a high ticket dropshipping business, ideally, if you're listening to us, like do it now, like today, while you're listening to this, start doing something, because now is the best time of year to start a high ticket dropshipping business as well. As I say, it tends to be quieter. Supplies are quieter. The year hasn't ramped up. There's generally, with some exceptions of certain markets, not a lot of sales happening, right? Or as many as a percentage. So you've got a good chance to build your thing now so that it's going to be running as you go. You can build it in 30 days. So if you start taking action today, you can have a business built by the start of February, right? That you're sending customers to. As the year gets busier and busier, you can take advantage of that. Whereas if you wait till the middle of the year, it's, going to feel a bit harder and more challenging. So I think, that's my little rant on the start of the year, but I'd love to jump into some of the things I think, Ben, that we both do around the start of the year to kind of set us up for the year ahead, or maybe some things that have worked for us.
Or haven't worked, right?
Yeah.
Look, I think you nailed it with proactive and reactive. My friend George introduced this term to me. We are often reactive, constantly letting life happen to us instead of for us, and we're constantly reacting to what's going on. Billy got sick at school, or your wife got a flat tire, or whatever. Like, you're letting things happen to you rather than you setting aside time to make sure you are being proactive in your business. And so, number one, you got to get clear on what you want to accomplish. Number two, you have to stay self-aware of how good of a job you are doing in that. And then number three, you have to be proactive. Like, you have to take action. You have to do the things. And so I would love to actually break into some of that, Jon, but I want to be forthright in that, when I was first beginning, I would set goals and I would ignore them again because I was reactive. I had a full-time job, right? I'd come home, I'd be ornery some days. My wife wouldn't be thrilled when I got home. The house was dirty or whatever, or, I think we had a sick cat back then too. And so the cat was peeing in the closet. That'll throw you off for wanting to get work done when you come home and your wife's going crazy because the cat peed in the closet. And life happens. Life is never going to stop happening, and the time is going to pass anyway. And so you have to find some time for you. One of the ways that I've done that in the past that was effective was something that was called the perfect calendar. And so at this mastermind, we sat down and we built out a calendar of all the shit I actually want to do. So some of that is business, some of that is personal, right? If I want to go on a trip, a weekend with my wife every other month, I should put that in the calendar today on January 3rd, so that at the end of February, the end of April, the end of June, I hope I'm doing my math right there, we're going on a trip and it's already in the calendar. And if I want to make sure that I walk on a trail once a week, I should schedule that in every single week. Everything that you want to do, including your business, and we'll get into some business stuff, you should put in this calendar so that you live by your calendar and work fills in the rest of it, because it's going to fill it up. Life is going to fill it up. Work is going to fill it up. Kids' activities are going to fill it up. Things are going to come in. And if you've already scheduled off this time in this calendar for all of the year and you live by your calendar, you're going to be light years ahead of some person who's just letting life happen to them and being reactive and answering emails and all sorts of things that just can get in your way throughout the rest of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's an awesome activity to do, is to have a structured sort of calendar. I know that if I don't have the things that I need to do in life in my calendar, well in advance, my time just gets booked up. People can book calls in my calendar. People can book my time. And so if I just leave it all open and unplanned, my time gets automatically taken up by other people, and I never get time to do the things that I actually want to achieve or do, whether it's in business or whether it's just, hey, I want to go and spend some time with my kids. I will actually put that in my calendar that I need to spend, or I want to spend 2 hours with the kids on this day, right? Or every day, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. Because if I don't do that, then there will be other people demanding my time at at the times where I don't want to give my time away to anybody else. So, and I want to do something for myself or my business or my family or whatever. So I think that's really a great practice to be in, and learning. I mean, once again, it's a habit. Like working with a calendar, like before I started business, I didn't use a calendar for my life at all. Right. I mean, there was no calendar. It was just like, totally reactive to everything, working to other people's schedules, all that sort of stuff. So maintaining a calendar is a habit. So it's one of those things that you're probably going to suck at a little bit in the beginning, but you're going to get better the more you practice it. And so the important thing is that even if you suck at it, to keep practicing it, because you're going to get better at it.
I've only recently gotten good at it, Jon. Like if I remember back when I first started, the point of I wanted to get the fuck out of my job. I wanted freedom, right? And that meant freedom from somebody telling me what to do or when to be where. And I pushed away from this structure in my life, from discipline in my life for years, thinking that's what I actually wanted, when discipline is freedom. And it was more, I'm still going to live by a calendar, but it's going to be my calendar. I'm going to dictate how I spend the hours of my day, and then let everything else kind of flow. And then, like you said, it's going to fill up. And so if you're listening to this right now and you're like, oh, I live by my calendar already, I hate my job, I don't want to do this. Like, you dictate your calendar rather than somebody else dictating your calendar. That's actually freedom, because you still have to make progress. That's one of the core values we all have. We all need to continue to make progress in our lives, or we'll go nowhere. And so, this is a unique exercise that I thought for a long time. And even after I heard it, I was like, yeah, that sounds really cool, but fucking, I don't want a calendar. I don't want to watch. I don't want, you know what I mean? And so it's interesting how you can run away from what you think is pain instead of reshaping it to make it a win for you rather than, a pain for you.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So I think that's a great thing. One of the things I love to do, people often talk about setting goals and things like that for the year ahead at the start of the year, right? I think that's probably one of the most common things you'll hear people talking about. One of the exercises that I actually like to do before I do that, and we can talk about that, doing that in a minute. But one of the things I do, which I find very helpful, but leads into goal settings, and I think is a very important step to do before that. And I'm pretty sure I picked this up from Tim Ferriss. I want to say this is an exercise I learned from him at some point. I can't remember if it was from one of his books or of his podcasts, but I actually do a review of the previous year. So I think a lot of people miss doing this, right? So yes, you're at the start of a new year, but you've just gone through a year where you may have had goals. You may have wanted to do certain things. You did do a lot of things. And I think it's important to actually review your prior year and work out what worked for me, what didn't work, what did I want to achieve, and what did I achieve, what didn't I achieve, why didn't I achieve those things? Because as always, there is a lot we can learn from history. So while we shouldn't focus on it and like say, oh, I'm really shit, I didn't meet my goals. Well, that's not the point of the exercise, is to put yourself on a downer. It's to look at it and say, okay, so I said I was going to do this last year, but I didn't. Why was that? Because the next thing you're going to do is talk about the forthcoming year, which in this case is 2023. And you're going to say, well, I want to do this, this, and this. So if you know why you didn't hit your goals in the past, if you can analyze that and pull out and say, well, there were some factors that led to me not meeting those goals. If you're setting similar goals again for this year, you should be able to plan to take those risks into account. So you will know from your last year at the things you didn't succeed in, the things you did succeed in. You will know for the things you didn't succeed in, why didn't you succeed in them, which automatically becomes your risks for the upcoming year, right? So if you didn't succeed at reaching your business goals last year because your work was too demanding, let's say, and you were reacting to too many things, do not expect 2023 to automatically be any different. You need to plan to take that into account so that it doesn't happen again, right? So you identify your risks. And then for goals that you did hit, right, you're like, yeah, I hit some of my goals last year. That was awesome. What helped you to hit those goals? Like, were there particular things that you did, or particular ways that you did things, or how you structured your time, or it could be any number of things, but actually ask yourself, why did I hit my goals? Because now you're going to set some new goals. And if you can identify things that help you set your goals, as in it might be how you organize your time, like Ben's just mentioned, or it might be, particular ways that you do things, or having people to help you do things. It could be any number. Maybe you hired a team member last year, and when you look at bigger goals this year, you identify that I hit my goals last year because I brought on a team member. So maybe this year you need to plan to bring on another team member to help you hit a bigger goal, right? So when you go through that process of reviewing your year, and there's actually an exercise in our course, Dropship Breakthru, where I get our students to go through this, actually, in one of our modules. It makes looking at the next year much, you can do it with a lot more insight that's actually going to help you plan and set a strategy for achieving your upcoming goals. Whereas if you just come in and you never look at the past and you say, I want the goals for the next year, the chance that you're going to repeat the same mistakes every year are significantly increased because you're not learning from what you have done. So that's an exercise I like to do. And there is a bit of a longer framework for doing that. Like I say, if you want to learn it, jump into our program.
I want to talk about, like, what are we actually doing right now, Jon? And I know we're recording this a little bit before the year, but I'm working on some stuff right now. I want to give people real examples, because I could sit here, honest to God, I could sit here and give you like 14 things I've heard on podcasts that all sound fucking fantastic, but I'm not doing them. And that would do a service to everyone listening to this who can go find them themselves. I want to like share what's actually working for me personally. And then, I would love for you to share what's actually working for you too, to like stay focused on this.
Hey, it's Jon here. I just want to take a really quick break from the episode to let you know about something exciting that we've got happening over at Dropship Breakthru. Now, one of the first questions that anyone looking to get into high ticket dropshipping asks is, what am I going to sell? What are the profitable products going to be that I'm going to build a business around? And it's one of the things that people worry about the most. And that's fair enough. Picking the wrong products to sell is one of the biggest mistakes that people looking to start a dropshipping business make. So what if I said we could fix that for you and solve that problem, answer that question for you in the next 5 days? Well, the answer is we absolutely can do that. So I want to introduce to you the Dropship Breakthru 5-day challenge. And the 5-day challenge is basically like a mini workshop that over the course of 5 days is going to show you and help you find the profitable products that you can build a high ticket drop shipping business around. So each day for 5 days, you're going to get a lesson or two to go through, and each of those videos together is going to show you the process that we've used, not just Ben and I, but over 400 of our students have used to find profitable high ticket products that are viable for the dropshipping business model. So you're going to get a lesson every day. You're going to watch that lesson, and at the end of the 5 days, you'll know what you're going to sell. And I'm going to throw a few interesting bonuses in there as well. Now, the best part of this is you can join the challenge today for just $97. So single investment of $97, and you're going to then know what you can build a business around with a super high level of confidence, so that you can start your business and not have to worry about that maybe you've picked the wrong products and you're going to have to go back to scratch at some point. So all you need to do to join the Dropship Breakthru 5-day challenge is head to Dropship Breakthru, that's spelled BREAKTHRU.com/5, the number 5. You'll find the link below in the show notes. All you have to do is head there, sign up on that page, and you will be immediately and instantly into the 5-day challenge. You can get started straight away. So head over there, join the challenge, and once again, it's backed as always by our 30-day money back guarantee. So if you take the challenge and you think it was rubbish, you couldn't identify any products or anything like that, you can request your money back and we'll hit you straight back up with that. So head on over. If you're looking to get started, if you've been sitting on the fence, if you've been worrying about finding the right products, head over, take the 5-day challenge today at dropshipbreakthru.com/5.
I said this on a student call. I'll say this on the podcast too. I used to give every single consulting client I had a copy of the book Vivid Vision by Cameron Herold. We recommend it often on this podcast. And I wasn't eating my own dog food. So I did it. My wife and I sat down. We set 3 goals. We wanted to winter in Florida. I wanted to make $20K a month in profit. And we wanted to buy a home in the town we're in. And in 2020, I exited a company for literally exactly that amount on a monthly basis. We bought the home right before 2020, at the end of 2019. And then my coach yelled at me and said, "What are you doing, dude? You could winter now. You're an idiot. Go." And so we wintered. That was I think our first winter there was in 2021. I never went back and reviewed that book and said, hey, honey, let's do it again. So one thing that we've done recently, we went for a very, very long walk around the town that we live in with our son, who got a wonderful nap in during that. And we just said, all right, let's set some new stuff. And, some scary numbers, some scary goals. And by scary, I mean, like, they just seemed very big at the time. We're sad. And we're like, okay, let's set these, right? And actually sat in the Vivid Vision, went home, sat and said, what does it look like? A home's a good example. We want to buy a home in a specific area. So we said, okay, what does this home look like? What does it feel like to sit in there? That's what Vivid Vision is, right? It's very easy to fall into that trap, I think, or at least it was for me, to like set those goals, hit them, and not even realize that we had hit them, and never taken a second to be like, wow, that's amazing. This book that I recommend to everybody worked completely, and I've never actually revisited it. So Vivid Vision is something my wife and I are working through currently. When it comes to business, one thing that my team and I at the pet company are working on is, like, it is so easy to get distracted by whatever the latest shiny object is, or different hack to get more traffic, or different conversion hack to make more sales. It's very easy to do a lot of little things and feel like you did nothing throughout the year. And so we decided we're going to make 2023 the year of focus. We are going to focus on one channel, and that is it for the entire year. And we are going to do everything we can to make that channel the best channel it possibly can be as a team. And then we'll know at the end of the year, was that worth our time? I think we're making a good educated guess on what channel that is, but we're going to ignore everything else, or we're going to do our absolute best to ignore everything else. And then we have one team member who we've dedicated to one other channel that he's exceptionally good at. And so we're going to have him do that one channel, and all three of us are going to focus on one other channel. And that's it. We're not going to do anything. We're not going to see, Leanna and I are very good at seeing the latest hack on Twitter, where literally everybody gives a shit ton of stuff away for free. Go be on Twitter if you're not. And then we'll be like, oh, we got to do this in their business. We got to do postcards, or we should run an SMS campaign, or we should do ringless voicemails, or whatever the next hot thing is. All while we're sitting here not focusing on one channel. And so there's a book I believe called The One Thing that's very similar to this. What is the one thing you could do that by doing it would make everything else easier? And if you just simply ask yourself that question, what is the one thing I can do in my business simply by doing it would make everything else that I need to do easier or irrelevant? That's the thing you should be focusing on. And so that's what we're going to do this year, is we're going to focus on that one thing one channel that can drive profitable, sustainable revenue to our business. And we're not going to stop until it has either been declared a dead test or we've accomplished our goal.
And so how does that, just a follow-up question to that, because I think that's pretty cool, right? I like that, and I can totally see so many benefits to doing that. While some people may say, oh, that's such a risky thing to do, to focus on one thing, it probably misses a few points. But after you made that decision, like, how does that feel? Like, how do you feel about that? Because I could imagine that would kind of take a lot of weights off your mind to have things so simplified, in a sense.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a weight off everyone's shoulders. And just like, when those ideas come, because they're going to come. If you're an entrepreneur at heart and you're listening to this, you know what I'm talking about. The shiny objects just continue to show up. We can just say, no, not right now. Not right now. You know what I mean? Like, maybe it's never going to be a no, but it's not right now. We have to focus on this one thing and prove it out. And I think anybody could do that. When we're talking dropshipping, to everyone listening, if you're already a dropshipper, if all you did in 2023 was focus on being the best fucking Google and Bing ads specialist on the planet for your business, you're going to be in a different place at the end of the year. Or SEO. If you just only focused on SEO and just pushed out content and built out your collection pages, you're going to be in a different place by the end of the year. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. If you just focus and you just stay in your lane and continue going deep, going 1 inch wide and 2 feet deep rather than going 2 feet wide and 1 inch deep, things are going to change in your business. And so, I don't know, it became apparent to us, especially in this business, because look, I run Dropship Breakthru with Jon. We're very busy. We have a lot of students. I run a high ticket dropshipping business with 2 other people. I run this pets business with 2 other people. Inside the pets business, Leanna runs her own copywriting business. Leighton runs his own web design agency. And so all 3 of us have a lot going on. And so when we come into the business and work on it, we're kind of all scatterbrained. And this just made it seem more realistic to us. Here's what we can accomplish by the end of the year. And let's not focus on anything else until this one thing is accomplished. And you're right. It allowed a lot more breathing room. Just a lot of weight left the room.
Yeah. I think it reminds me of that thing. I know multiple people have said it over time. I think Gary Vee says a lot like people overestimate what they can do in 1 year, but underestimate what they can do in 10 years, what they're going to achieve in 10 years, right? And I think the trap a lot of people get into, and this relates back to you if you're listening to the show right now and you're like, I want 2023 to be the year that I get into business and all of that sort of thing. I launched my first business. I changed things up. I changed my life. Whatever you're thinking, is that the tendency people have is to try and do too much in the space of a year, like put too much on their plate and overwhelm themselves so that they don't actually end up focusing on any one thing enough or to the required amount to get the job done. And so how I would relate what Ben's just said back to you, if you're listening to the show and you're that person, you want to start something new this year, you're raring to go, don't overburden yourself for the year. Like if you want to start a dropshipping business, make that the one thing you do in this space. Don't plan to look at other business opportunities. Like don't just be like, well, I'm going to start a dropshipping business and I'm going to learn to flip real estate and I'm going to do this. That is a really bad plan because you will not be able, you can't do all of those things as well as everything else that's going on in your life and all the other things that are going to happen to you. Nothing will get the required focus. And the chance that you're going to get to the end of the year and say, well, another year's gone past and I didn't really get into any of those things that I wanted to get into is significantly higher the more you load yourself up with things to do. So you really want to pick one thing. What is your one big thing? If it's going to be high ticket dropshipping because you're listening to this show and that's what you want to have a crack at, then make that's your big thing. Don't add anything else to that. And I think your chances of getting somewhere are significantly improved.
The other things that I'm working on, John, I don't know if you want to share, by the way, tell me to shut up. But the other things I'm personally working on are, I had a wonderful conversation with my wife's performance coach at a mastermind I was at. Her name is Adrienne, wonderful lady. And she asked me, like, when's the last time you felt proud of yourself? Which is a really fucking weird question. And I challenge everyone listening to this. When's the last time you felt proud of yourself? Because it was actually hard for me to come up with something because I'm so hard on myself all the time. I focus on what I didn't get done rather than what I did get done. So anyway, she asked me, when were you proud of yourself? And maybe I've told this on the show before. Maybe I haven't. I don't know. My partner, Bo, and I at Golf League have never made the playoffs before. And last year we made the playoffs. We needed 1/2 point in the last 3 holes to beat both of his uncles who we were playing. I had him drain a 30-foot putt on 9 just to save our asses to go into overtime. So rather than winning easily, we barely made it. And then they crushed us in the first hole of overtime. So that was our experience with the playoffs in league. This year, we made the playoffs again. And we went in there, we looked at each other and said, this year's different. We're going to go dominate people. And we did. First round, second round, third round, we fucking dominated people. We made the finals. I am paired up with probably the best golfer at our course, if not, top 3 golfers in our course. And I hadn't really noticed any head games until that day, and the head games showed up. And they showed up on the course as well. Like in the first 4 holes, I hit a flag stick and went in the bunker. I hit a rake and kicked into the bunker. Like everything that could go, I hit a tree and went out of bounds. Just like everything that could go wrong went wrong. Even on great shots went wrong. So I was 8 over par on 4 holes. The guy had to give me 6 strokes. He's very, very good. But I was already losing through 4 holes. We get onto the 5th hole of the course, and at that point, myself and my business partner, my golf partner, are yelling at each other. We're arguing on the fairway of number 5, where he's like, "You never sponsor my tournaments. You always sponsor." So we're fighting on 5 and talking about like never golfing ever again. And I looked right at him and I said, "Bo, this is not how this goes. We're fucking winning today." And he laughed. He's pissed off, and we're already losing pretty bad. And I hit it from underneath a fucking pine tree onto the green, hit a very hard putt for par, birdie to finish the thing and end up winning the thing. And Adrienne was like, "Okay, what happened that day?" She's like, "You didn't fall to your habits. You could have fell into your habits and sat there and argued, and it could have been just like every other year. And this game sucks and we're going to lose today. Instead, you made a choice." And I want you, the listener, to focus on like your habit versus choice. So right now you're riding this great big high of the new year and you've set goals. 2023 is going to be different, and it won't take very long before you fall right back to your habits and let life start affecting you. And I challenge you to start finding some self-awareness to make different choices. So the way the room challenged me to do this was I am every night, my wife and I sit down and we talk about, how did you win today as a dad? How did you win today as a husband? How did you win today in business? How did you win today in your health? Because every night I would go to bed, and even though I would go for my walk that day, and I literally did yoga, it's not the end of the year as we're recording this, but I fucking did yoga every single day in 2022. That was my goal, and I goddamn did it. Even though I did that, I would go to bed and be like, well, yeah, but you didn't quite do this, or well, maybe you shouldn't have ate this one thing, or whatever it was. Like, I would beat myself up for the little shit I didn't do rather than really focus on the wins. And what I was challenged at this mastermind was in order to change my habits to being able to make a choice, I need to be aware. And in order to be aware, I need to actually focus on that every single day. How am I winning in those categories every night? I focus on my wins and I go to bed. And if I had something bad happen that day, I reframe it before I go to bed, because your brain actually doesn't know the difference between real life and what you imagine. So you just imagine that it went differently, and then you go to bed and you wake up and you're in a better place. And then every morning I focus on, how am I going to win in my health today? How am I going to win in business today? What is my one big thing in business? I do an OBT every day. How am I going to win as like a husband and a father that day? And just by bringing that awareness on a daily basis, wouldn't you know it, all of a sudden I'm starting to be a better dad and a better husband and a better business owner and better with my health, just by bringing awareness to that fact, which allows me to make choices in the moment rather than fall to my habits in moments. So hopefully that wasn't a long, convoluted golf story that turned into some wisdom there. But that's what I'm working on personally. That and understanding, and this could be a whole nother podcast. I worked with my buddy Scott to understand my values and the rules I set for these values, and I am readdressing my rules for those values. We'll do that in a different show because that's some deep shit, but reassessing those rules, but also assessing them every single night rather than focusing on how I fell short of my rules so that I'm not living my values. Let's reset values so that I can live them every single day and realize that I'm living my values, which will lead me to be it, which will lead me to do it, which will lead me to have it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's cool. I think that one of the things that's certainly that I've been probably not doing everything I know that I should do in previous years, that's certainly one of my priorities to change for 2023 is finding that something that I think you've been very good at least in recent years, is having, I guess, I don't know if accountability is the right word, but having, you're part of groups and things like that where you're talking to people about this stuff. And you're sharing what you're doing and people are kind of holding you to account, or, whether it's your coach, Elliot, or whatever, calling you out when maybe you're, not living up to what you say you're going to live up to or whatever. And I think that's not something I've really ever had. And I think the sense I get from listening to your experiences and other people's experiences as well is that when you have some form of structure, whether that's, I don't know, whether it's a mentor or a coach or a mindset coach or a mastermind that you're a part of or something like that, it makes it a lot easier. And if they understand what you're trying to achieve and what your goals are, all that sort of thing, it makes it a lot more likely that you're going to stay the path as you go through the year. When you have that, something external that's actually able and kind of independent, who's able to tell you when you're off track, when you're not living up to whatever you've set for yourself, when you're, and really question you fairly hard about that. I think that's something that, I have business partners, and you do get that sometimes in a sense from a business partner, but it's still not, I think there's still a relationship there where they're not completely independent, and they're usually not, a lot of the time, not going to call you out completely and just say you're being, you've got it really, really wrong. You need to readjust or whatever. So I think something that I'm certainly planning to put into place this year is that more of that for myself. Because I think I'm very good at having a structure for planning out my year, setting goals, quarterly goals, blah, blah, all that sort of stuff. But then the challenge, I think, that's not a really hard exercise to do, right? To set goals, to understand what happened last year and how that might impact this year, but actually sticking to it and, being able to assess it as you're going and analyze it and things like that's the hard part. Well, that's the hard part for me anyway. I assume it's probably the hard part for most people. And I feel for me that if I, had some sort of external force to hold me to what I say I'm going to do, there'll be fewer things that slip for me in 2023.
It's hard. You got the same advice as I've been trying to get healthy. My coach was like, so hire a fucking trainer. And I was like, yeah, well, I know what I'm doing. Like, I used to work out a lot in the past and I'm, a student of blah, blah, blah. And just like, I'm very, very smart. And he's like, yeah, cool. Are you doing it? And I was like, no. And he was like, hire a fucking trainer. He's like, I know you are one of the most integrous people I know. You will show up just so that you don't let that person down, whether it's a he or she, whatever. Like, you won't let them down. And I was like, oh, that's such a good point. Like, and that ends up being what a lot of coaches are, right? Or anyone. But I don't know. I know we have a forthcoming episode in the future of like, should you pay a mentor or should you hire a coach? I've got some opinions on that. So I'll probably share it in that episode. And look, I'm genuinely curious. If you're listening to this, how do you set goals? I think every single person on the planet has something to teach every single person on this planet. And I guarantee there's someone listening to this who has something to teach Jon and I around setting goals and sticking with it. And I'm better in some areas than others. Like I've gotten pretty good at business, but still working on this health journey. Right. And so, if you've got some advice for Jon and I want to hear it. Or if you've got a unique angle on how you pull this off, that's not, not just the same stuff that we've definitely heard before. I'd love to hear it. So if you're watching on YouTube, share that in the comments down here. If you're on a podcast, hop in the Dropship Tribe Facebook group and share how are you working on things, or heck, if you want to share your goals in there so that we can hold you accountable or the group can hold you accountable, by all means, share. I'd love to see what they are.
Yeah, probably the last thing I'd mention, I mentioned setting goals and like all of that sort of stuff without actually mentioning how you do it. Like, what's the structure for that? I don't even think we need to go through it. But what I'm going to say is I 100% do it exactly the way that it's talked about in a book called Traction by Gino Wickman. Fantastic book. We've mentioned it on this show before. I think it's mentioned as one of both of our top reads, probably. But literally, there within that book, there is an exact sort of framework for goal setting and breaking that down into like what are the things that you need to be doing each quarter, each week to reach your 10, 5, 1 year goals. So if you would love to learn, like if you just have no clue about how to do it, I 100% would direct you straight to that book, Traction by Gino Wickman. Go and read it. He has another book that you should read after that as well, but focus on Traction. That's got a simple and I think easy to understand, fantastic exercise that for me works. I mean, everybody's different, but for me, it 100% works. That's what I do. So yeah, go read it.
Rocks, man. Gotta love the rocks from Traction.
Rocks.
I'm a big fan of.
Yeah.
I think there's like a few that play together here that we mentioned, right? Vivid Vision. If you haven't bought Vivid Vision by Cameron Herold, go buy that and do it. Traction is a wonderful thing. And it's almost teaching the same thing as the one thing, basically like set your big goal and then work your way back to what's the one thing I can do right now. And I think between those three things there's endless resources online on how to set, smart goals and there's no shortage of different tactics here, but you got to find the one that works for you. Because just like your favorite guru, not everyone likes Jon and I, believe it or not. They might have some other guru, right? Like not every system's going to work for you. There's going to be one that does. And so that's what I meant by, share with us if you found something that works for you.
Absolutely.